Hi Year 11, I'm going to quickly talk you through your exam for tomorrow with some quick revision tips for a separate piece. But the skills that I'm going to be talking about can be applied to your Macbeth exam and your poetry exam because the mark scheme is exactly the same for all of those. So a quick reminder of what we went through in January after your mocks for the mark scheme. So you can see clearly here the general gist of how your marks are applied by the examiner. So 10 marks or below is when you are not answering the question. You're not using quotations that link to the question, and you've rarely mentioned the question at all. Obviously, nobody is going to do that tomorrow. 11 marks and above, you're going to become relevant. 15 marks or above is when you are clearly analysing language. That does not mean technique spotting, but that means not only picking out what Knowles is doing in his language and structure, but explaining why he does it and what is the effect. And to get 20 marks, your answer is going to be consistently relevant. So every point you make, every quotation you use, every single bit of language analysis and the effects that you mention are consistently linking back to the question. And nothing that you talk about is going off the question and off focus. You need to show a clear understanding of the full novel. We will do the extract question tomorrow, but you still need to make relevant links back. So if you leave that exam tomorrow and you don't mention the tree incident, you don't mention that Finney and Jean are best friends and they're at school and then they fall out, then you haven't shown a full understanding of that novel. And finally, you need to show alternative interpretations to get that top mark. So you want to really delve into your analysis, showing how Knowles might have tried to create different effects. Okay, so the question that you may get tomorrow will look something like this. How does Knowles make this a tense moment in the novel? As you are aware, you'll probably have two keywords. So you'll have something like tension, an entertaining moment, a dramatic moment, an emotional moment. And that's the effect that you are looking for in your exam. You're looking at how Knowles creates that thing that is mentioned there in your keyword. And you may also get an adverb, so words like vividly, movingly, powerfully, and strikingly. Do not ignore that adverb tomorrow. It's very important that you mention it, repeat it, and actually really think about how Knowles is creating that keyword in the extract as well. So, as I said to you in January, a top tip will be that you really know the techniques that your writer uses in the whole novel. So, for example, if you had tension come up in your exam, you know that you can talk straight away about narrative structure. Actually, no matter what the effect is tomorrow, you know that the first person narration of Jean is really important in creating suspense, sympathy, humour, no matter what, because we have an insight into his thoughts and feelings, and therefore we as a reader feel closer to him and these emotions are heightened. You might also talk about dramatic irony, sentence structure if it's important, and obviously don't forget about language as well. So make sure you have those techniques in your head when you go into that exam. And I'm just going to show you how I would plan for it tomorrow. So let's say that our question tomorrow is, how does Knowles make this a powerfully emotional end to the chapter? So I've just written out a few things that have come to mind when I've seen that question. So powerfully, well, how does a writer create something that is powerful? It might be through imagery, vivid verbs, vivid adjectives, and emotional. First thing that's come to my head is the first person narration of Jean. The fact that we get his thoughts and feelings, therefore we get his true emotions, which is important. Verbs and adverbs are also important when looking at emotion, so I might look at that. I might also just add here if we need to look at dialogue as well. And I've just made a quick note. I might also be mentioning dramatic irony and not to forget about structure. And just in case you are really panicking tomorrow, you might also just want to make a quick checklist of things to mention. So I'm going to write for myself. Tree incident, don't forget about that. Jean and Finney and their friendship. probably going to mention the war at some point. So I am proving to the examiner that I've actually read this whole novel and something about the end of the novel as well, or the beginning, and the fact that we have old Jean visiting the school, and this whole novel is through his memories. Okay, so just to show you what your extract should look like at the end of your exam tomorrow. So I've picked out about 9 to 10 key points here with a bit of analysis. And just to go through with you some top tips when you're writing to remember for tomorrow. Number 1, your introduction should be short and simple, answering the question again. You might want to place the extract briefly. The moment is important and emotionally powerful because Jean finally confesses to pushing Finny off the tree, or just a nice summary of why it is an emotional moment between the two boys. Secondly, when you are zooming in on your language and on your structure, you want to make sure that you're talking about the effect in context. So you are not just talking about the fact that it might make the reader want to read on or anything generic like that. You're actually thinking about how does it affect this extract? How does it affect the novel? How does it affect the reader's perception or view of that character? How does it link to earlier or later on in the novel as well? And you also want to be thinking about, is there any major changes here? Has a character change? Is this a plot point, a plot twist? It probably will be, because the examiners are going to choose something that you can talk about a change in the plot. And finally, if you're looking at structure, make sure you're showing that change. If you might want to look at dialogue, repetition, sentence length, but only if you can clearly prove your effect. Why is it powerfully emotional? If you cannot prove that, do not talk about it. Good luck tomorrow, boys. Bye.